All right. Hello, everyone. We'll give us a few minutes here to let people trickle in before we get started. I know we're a little behind, but I'm happy everyone's here, and this is a presentation you won't want to miss today. All right, well, welcome and thank you for joining us for the second webinar in this year's Virtual Visiting Scholar webinar series. My name is Virginia Rhodes, the project director for the ARC Network. We're very excited to host the second presentation from cohort 4 of the Virtual Visiting Scholars program. This program empowers scholars to complete metasyntheses and meta-analyses of existing literature to address critical issues relevant to equity and STEM. Before we introduce today's speaker, I would like to take care of a few housekeeping items. First, I want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded, and we will share the recording with registrants and post it on our ARC Network website for later viewing. Live captioning is also available through Zoom. If you hover your mouse over the bottom of the Zoom window, you'll see a number of different menu options. To the right is the icon for captioning, and selecting the caret will allow you to customize your captioning. In the center are options for Q&A and chat. For the beginning of our webinar, you'll only be able to view the chat messages from the ARC team. We will also use the chat to share links to resources and our feedback survey at the end of this webinar. We will open the chat for participants once we finish with the prompted part of our discussion. And if you have any questions for the speaker, please be sure to add them to the Q&A, where you can also upvote questions there. Next, ARC Network's community librarian, Bethany Farmer, will share more about who we are as the ARC Network.
Hey everybody, the ARC Network is funded by the National Science Foundation's Advanced Program. Building on NSF Advanced Program efforts, the ARC Network aims to connect widely dispersed scholars and practitioners committed to STEM equity in an engaged stakeholder community. As the STEM Equity Brain Trust, the ARC Network works to promote systemic change by collecting previous work and producing new perspectives, methods, and interventions through convenings, a curated resource library, emerging research workshops, a virtual visiting scholar program, and online events like this one. The ARC Network is built on and works through a framework integrating inclusion, intersectionality, and intentionality. We strive to ensure that our work accounts for the social stratifications that intertwine to determine the unique inequities that folks experience. The Women in Engineering Proactive Network, or WEPAN, serves as our home organization. To learn more about the ARC Network, we encourage you to visit equityinstem.org, where you can also join the community if you haven't already. You can also find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter at ARC Equity in STEM and hashtag Equity in STEM. And now ARC Network's Community Engagement Director and WEPAN's Director of Strategic Initiatives, Stephanie Page, will introduce our speaker.
Hello, everyone. Today we are joined by Dr. Rochelle Hendricks-Stirrup. Dr. Hendricks-Stirrup, is the Research Director of Real-World Evidence at the Duke Margolis Center for Health Policy in Washington, D.C., strategically leading and managing the center's Real-World Evidence Collaborative. As an engagement expert, researcher, bioethicist, and policy practitioner, her work centers on addressing implementation and ethical, legal, and social implications issues at the intersection of health policy and innovation. She also partners with the Duke University faculty, scholars, students, and external health experts to advance the center's biomedical innovation network. Dr. Hendricks-Stirrup is also adjunct faculty at Rural Ohio University, teaching graduate courses in the Department of Interdisciplinary Health Sciences Health Policy Certificate Program. She received her Bachelor of Science in Biology from Chicago State University, her Master's in Pharmacology and Toxicology from Michigan State University, her Master's in Legal Studies from the University of Illinois, and her Doctor of Health Science from Nova Southwestern University. Welcome, Dr. Hendricks-Stirrup, and we will get our screens switched over.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I will go ahead and share my screen to begin I'm thrilled to have been a 2021-2022 Virtual Visiting Scholar for the ARC Network. And I'm really excited about the topic that I'll present today, particularly because it's a topic that is extremely relevant to the work that I do, the work that I have done over the course of my career, as it incorporates a lot of collaboration between industry and academia to inform policy and also to drive innovative methods and scientific approaches to addressing some of our most pressing health issues that we observe today, that we especially observed over the last couple of years and will continue to need to address moving forward. So today I'll discuss findings or present to you an overview of findings from my project, which, as you learned, is entitled Industry Academia Partnerships in STEM, a metasynthesis of literature and evidence gaps around gender and gender intersectionality. So to provide some background about my project, initially, when I approached this topic, I observed that there's not been a lot of support around industry and academia partnerships. And the reason for that is because the traditional academic institution in the past and today, they value the culture of free thought, thought leadership, academic freedom, and essentially want to protect their faculty from being able to speak their minds about important issues. And that is important. Yet, this notion often conflicts with industrial pursuits that often come with a bit more secrecy, especially as it pertains to markets, secrets around market advantage and so forth. And obviously, science can become intertwined with that and even conflict with that. The spirit of open science conflicts with it for sure. Yet our 21st century tech revolution has inspired a cultural change that has welcomed industry academia partnerships. This is especially as new science, technology, engineering, and math graduates are faced with extremely competitive and limited tenure track faculty opportunities in academia. So opportunities to continue in the free thought exercises are becoming limited as the number of graduates increases over time in STEM. Industry also offers to many more generous and flexible funding opportunities than traditional academic research sponsors. So this has made industry collaboration even more attractive, more incentivized. Partnerships may offer greater returns on time and effort investments, such as returns on technology transfer is one example. And this is in addition to competitive long-term employment opportunities that industry can offer just as much as academia has and could provide. And then also partnerships afford industry greater access to thought leadership. And also academia benefits from industry partnership through greater access to real-world practical expertise. So how should we think about this overall? We should think about these bullets that you see here. And as industry academia partnerships become not just more common or more welcomed, with that comes the need to determine what are some of the equity level considerations at play within this particular intersection. And this is what I endeavored to investigate for my projects. I can first provide you, before I dive into those details, with some examples of industry academia partnerships. Some examples include what you see here. This is certainly not a list that you should limit yourself to, as opportunities and pathways continue to grow to industry academia partnerships, which I note in my last bullet. But there are some examples, such as I mentioned, industry funding for research and engagement and networking events, and also training. There's academic consulting or knowledge transfer activities at play, creating industry employment pipelines for STEM students, and then also faculty pathways for career transition into industry leadership roles. We continuously see a lot of that happening nowadays. So here are just some examples of what this transition or what this partnership sort of looks like at the intersection of industry and academia partnerships in STEM. So as I mentioned, it's important to look at this from an equity lens as we contemplate the future of industry academia partnerships. With innovation comes the human element, and with the human element comes considerations around equity, given that the human element is accompanied almost always by implicit biases. So despite progress made in cultivating industry-academia partnerships, the culture of industry and academia as they intertwine operationally may conflict. Some studies have exposed a gender gap in industry-academia partnerships. My early work identified that male academics are more likely than female academics to collaborate with industry, rendering female less visible to collaborators outside of academia. Also, male academics are more likely to use instrumental and experienced collaboration strategies than female academics, even though female academics tend to have more collaborators. More on that in my in findings that I'll present today. The nature of industry academia partnerships may render or predict certain career trajectories and outcomes as well. So, for example, in the event a faculty member or scientist engaging or working in academia begins to collaborate at some point in their career with industry, this could bolster or in some cases it could have a negative effect on their career trajectory. So it's important to understand what that spectrum looks like in practice and what it means to female and other gender diverse scientists in STEM. Lastly, female academic scientists in STEM, especially those of color, engaging in industry academia partnerships have encountered, we saw some of this in the news, they have encountered significant hurdles and biases in the workplace. The biases that exist in academia are certainly the case in industry practice. So for these reasons, it's very important to address or at least approach industry academia partnerships with an equity lens to move the field forward. So here's my problem statement. No study to date has qualitatively assessed the literature to determine underlying themes at the intersection of gender and industry academia partnerships in STEM, and examining how those themes exist or might vary across STEM disciplines. So my research question was, what is the overall state of evidence on gender and gender intersectionality regarding industry academia partnerships in STEM? Here's my research strategy. This was very much a literature review exercise, a systematic literature review exercise to be exact. I reviewed peer-reviewed empirical studies published within the last 10 years. This was my goal. Academic journals that engage with gender, sexuality, and feminist studies were targeted. For electronic publishers and databases were approached. Some keywords are what you see listed here: industry academia or industry and academia, partnerships, collaboration, gender, etc. I should add that my research strategy changed as I realized that that the literature in the last 10 years was not as robust as I hoped. So I changed my approach to look at literature published across all years. And after going through several papers, reading abstracts, titles, full papers, and reaching a conclusion about what would be helpful for this analysis and what might not be, I came to a final list of 20 qualitative and quantitative studies in the literature. 13 studies from my initial list of 33 were further excluded due to ambiguity around or thin relevance to industry academia collaboration, gender focus, or study methods. For example, literature reviews were excluded because they were not considered empirical for purposes of this work. And one of the studies that was a relevant literature review in any case that I will touch on in my actual paper, but not this presentation, is one written by Bozeman, Fay, and Slade in 2012. So of the 20 studies that I reviewed, they were published between 2006 and 2021. The studies were conducted across a wide range of countries, institutions across a wide range of countries, rather. Some of the countries that I list here overlap due to multiple authors on a single paper being from different institutions in different countries. So the countries included in my analysis were Canada, the USA, the UK, Spain, Italy, India, Denmark, the Netherlands, China, Hungary, Sweden, Taiwan, and Italy. The largest number of studies came out, as you see here, in the USA with a total of 8, and also in the UK with a total of 4. Studies included quantitative surveys of individuals or groups or collaborations or studies. They comprised of case studies, qualitative interviews, and qualitative assessments of discoveries, which I thought was interesting. The data sources that were drawn in across all of the studies include faculty and scientists themselves being academically affiliated, public patent registries, peer-reviewed publications, and research program data. Across all studies, the total number of observations fell just over 50,000 at 52,144 total observations. So across all of the studies, here's an overview of themes of what these studies intended to assess. So 5 studies sought to assess the effect of gender on industry interaction. 5 studies assess the effect of individual level factors on industry interaction. 7 studies assess the effect of industry collaboration on academic performance or market value. 3 studies, lastly, assess the impact of institutional factors on patent licensing or technology transfer. When looking at gender, or at least assessing gender and other socio-demographic variables, being explanatory or independent variables in many of the studies, all 20, obviously, as this was part of the inclusion criteria, assessed gender. Just about all of the studies, or exactly all of the studies, looked at gender in binary fashion, be it male versus female. Age was also assessed as an intersectional factor in some cases, or as a standalone factor in some cases, across 11 studies out of the 20. 2 studies looked at race and or ethnicity. 1 study looked at marital status, and 2 studies looked at parental status. Very few studies assessed the combined effect of gender or other social demographics on industry-academia collaboration. The scientific disciplines covered across all 20 studies include agriculture, biology, chemistry, chemical engineering, civil engineering, computer science, earth and atmospheric science, electrical engineering, materials engineering, mathematics, mechanical engineering, and lastly, physics. So some key findings around gender frequency in industry academia collaboration, we found, as we anticipated, that males collaborate more often than females. Within this theme, females engage in activities that require, or at least one study found that females engage in activities that require a lower level of time, effort, and resource commitment, and thus lower scientific value as a potential result. Another study within this theme identified negative female experiences in male-dominated workplace culture. And also one study, one theme found that within one study showed no significant relationship between male gender and time spent working with industry researchers, which was interesting. Some of these themes seem to conflict, yet we have to look at the frequency of the results as well, which I have listed here. Also, another theme, one study found that women engaged in wider scientific disciplines have more industry engagement. So it looks like the breadth of disciplines in which women engage can lead to more industry engagement, at least in one study. Some key findings around the impact of affiliation with university research centers versus traditional academic departments. One study found negative effects, or at least observed negative effects for industrial activities among females compared to males. Also, when assessing the impact of research center affiliation, 4 studies found a positive effect for commercial activity among females. 2 of those 4 found this. 1 of the 4 saw a positive effect for male status and co-authorship with industry. And 1 study saw a positive effect in specific scientific disciplines. So overall, we're seeing that research center versus traditional academic department affiliation plays a role in which the impact of, or at least plays a role in which we observe the frequency of industry and academia collaboration and gender, the effects of gender within this theme. So also some studies noted that there are some individual level factors and motivations at play that sometimes transcend beyond gender. But within this theme, when assessing the impact of individual level factors and motivations, the effect of age or age range was measured in one study or observed in one study. An effect of social capital or networking ties was observed in another. The perception that objective merits matter more than gender was seen in one study. There's also a positive effect of senior faculty status and also a positive effect on patent commercialization. So again, when we look at all of these variables with respect to individual level factors and motivations, we're seeing positive effects for patent commercialization, positive effects for senior faculty status. So faculty who are more established, they are therefore more motivated to engage in industry academia partnerships. And then also, as we look at individual factors and motivations, some feel that objective merits matter more than gender, to my point. And then social capital and networking ties are important, as well as age and age range. And more on that actually. So when examining the impact of scientific discipline on industry and academia collaboration, one study observed an impact of scientific discipline in general. Faculty in biology, mathematics, physics, and earth and atmospheric sciences in one study are less likely to engage with industry. One study found that faculty in chemistry and computer sciences are in fact more likely to engage in industry. Faculty in engineering are more likely to engage with industry as observed in 3 studies, and 2 studies also found that faculty in health sciences are more likely to contract with industry. No particular gender effects were captured in these studies, I should note. So when assessing the impact of scientific production on industry academia collaboration, there was a positive relationship found in one study between scientific production and the number of contracts. Now, studies that examined the effect on overall collaboration, one study found that being female and married with children does not influence the number of collaborators, but there's a decreased effect of male or female gender and increased age. So older males or females, there's a decreased effect on the number of collaborators as seen in 2 studies. So overall, we're seeing that age plays a role in the impact of scientific production in industry and academia collaborations. Within the same theme of impact on scientific production and collaborations, one study found a positive effect on employability. However, this positive effect was observed largely for male gender, such that male faculty were more likely to place graduate students in industry jobs. One study found this. When continuing to look at the impact of scientific production on industry academia collaborations, there was a positive effect observed on knowledge transfer or consulting. There were no observable effects when controlling for male or female gender. There was a positive effect observed for younger age, not surprisingly, given that we found other studies showed a negative effect for increasing or older ages. 6 studies found a positive effect for male gender. So males engaging, or at least males that are engaged in industry academia collaborations, they tend to have more scientific production than females. Continuing to look at the impact of scientific production, there was a positive effect on the number of publications or citations overall in one study. No effect was observed when controlling for male or female gender. There was a positive effect observed for male gender in 2 studies. In one study, a positive effect or correlation was observed for ethnicity and location of the research institution. And also, there was a positive relationship observed between project leader gender and age. When continuing to look at the impact of scientific production, there was a positive effect on patenting and patent commercialization in 3 studies. One study saw no observable effect when controlling for male or female gender. 3 studies found a positive effect for male gender. So male gender leads to an increased likelihood of patent and patent commercialization in these partnerships. Also, there was a positive effect observed for older age, which was interesting to see, given that we saw that older age is faculty of older ages tend to not engage in industry academia collaboration, but obviously when they do, there's a positive effect when observing patenting and patent commercialization as the outcome. There was a positive effect or correlation observed for ethnicity and location of the research institution as well. Now, continuing to look at the impact of scientific production on industry academia collaboration, there was a positive effect on research, innovation, and invention value in 3 studies. Yet there was also what was observed as within this were lower access to or exclusion from commercial resources among women by their mentors or senior faculty. 1 study found this or reported this. 2 studies reported no observable effect when controlling for male or female gender, however. Again, continuing to observe the impact of scientific production on industry and academia collaboration, there was a positive effect observed in 1 study on teaching and learning. So across these findings, there were some limitations noted. Faculty respondents may underreport backdoor technology transfer or industry collaboration, given the sensitive nature of industry collaboration. 2 studies reported this. 1 study reported that industry collaboration was not randomly assigned to observe a comparable effect among institutions. The results, or 2 studies report that their results may only be generalizable to regions that host innovative or elite science-based industries or institutions. 6 studies noted that their samples were drawn from a single sample or cross-section in time, therefore limiting the generalizability of their findings. One study noted that their study was conducted at a research institute versus a center, or institute or center versus a university. So the findings may be biased in that regard, given that there are positive observable effects between industry academia collaboration and center affiliation versus university department affiliation. Also, 1 study reported that they did not control for gender level findings that can potentially be explained by disciplinary selection. So thinking about the fact that certain genders might navigate to certain STEM disciplines, that's something that they did not control for. 1 study noted that their study lacked information on male and female academics' domestic responsibilities that may accompany career breaks. So definitely something to note when looking at this from a gender-wise standpoint, who can afford to take a career break, who cannot across genders. 1 study noted limitations to an academic system that is less dependent on private income. So for example, this study was conducted in Spain, and Spain is less, Spanish institutions or universities tend to rely less frequently on private income as they do public income. 2 studies reported that they may be missing contextual data relevant to gender. 1 study noted that they measured only 1 form of scholarly impact, foregoing measures of other types of impact that can arise from industry and academia collaborations. 3 studies sampled from research extensive, quote unquote, universities. And this is a term defined by the 2002 Carnegie classification, yet this term has been contested and has since become obsolete once contested, and therefore may not be a reliable measure for these studies that used it. Also, there were systematic differences noted that might exist between industry collaborative versus non-collaborative scientists. So looking again at some of the individual level motivations and factors that might cause one faculty versus another to be more or less industry or not industry collaborative versus non-collaborative. This 1 study did not account for incentives within the system to interact with industry as well. So here are some recommendations provided moving forward across all of the studies. First, consider and support optimal conditions for gender-balanced industry-academia collaboration. 7 studies recommended this. 2 studies recommended that we consider the effect of industry pressures for secrecy and publication delays on women scientists' career trajectories. It might be different from males. Also, consider how the male-dominated nature of the engineering and physical science industries creates barriers to female engagement. Also, consider the role industry plays in attracting PhD candidates seeking to collaborate with industry. One study recommended this. Also, one study recommended that more studies should sample industry perspectives on collaboration with academia, perhaps to get a more holistic overview of these perspectives. 2 studies noted that future studies would benefit from a longitudinal comparative gender assessment within industry academia collaboration. 5 studies recommended that future work should, or at least would benefit from a deeper analyses to identify any observed or otherwise lesser known effects that were measured in the studies covered. 5 studies also noted or recommended that universities should address incentive or baseline support systems to encourage gender diverse faculty to participate in industry collaboration. Here's my contact information in case you'd like to know more about this work. I can provide a QR code of citations to anyone after this presentation, should they be interested. And I'd be happy to stop here and take any questions from the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful presentation. I am laughing because you hit so many parts of like my personal journey. So I know we're here to hear from other folks. I want to remind our attendees that you can drop questions in the Q&A, and you can also upvote them, and we will also go ahead and open up the chat. If I could start with one question, it sort of has to do with, I think, something that you touched on a little bit early on, and which is sort of what kind of data are we looking at if there is potentially some exclusionary practices around where women are in these in these relationships that are built between academic institutions and industry. Do you have more thoughts around that? Just, you know, in terms of like how you were viewing these different studies?
Yes, definitely. So I think there's a range of things to consider across the career trajectory of a female or gender diverse scientist. So for one, there's the overarching sort of theme that came across here is that we tend to see a lot more engagement with industry within the discipline of engineering, whether that's chemical engineering or mechanical or civil, what have you. There's a lot more collaboration going on there, I think even more so than any other discipline. We did see a lot of collaboration in health sciences, but that tended to be a little bit more gender balanced. Now, within the engineering discipline, there was a term used in one of the papers called mobilizing masculinity in the workplace. And that made the workplace at sometimes less desirable to be in the event you were not a masculine person in that environment. And so just the culture of certain engineering disciplines as the culture is extant within the industry environment or the academic environment, that had an effect on whether or not female or gender diverse individuals felt comfortable. And mobilizing masculinities often looks like, one example that was provided was that there would be a room full of, men or masculine individuals that, might have been talking or laughing. And once the non-male or non-masculine person entered the room, they would get quiet. And so that's something to think about in terms of whether or not that culture is welcoming to individuals operating within those environments. And then also as I mentioned in my presentation, senior faculty often play a role in the career trajectories of junior faculty who are trying to break into the industry academia space. So senior faculty members may discourage their female mentees from going into partnerships, but support their male mentees in doing so. The reasons for that obviously have yet to be unpacked, but for future work can certainly do that in instances where that effect is observed. And then also, we're seeing that there's, obviously some other more like deeper levels to consider with respect to family planning, marital status, things like that, that often affect females more than males. So thinking about maternity leave, the fact that as I reported, women might pursue collaborations that are less time intensive or that might otherwise conflict with time needed that they need to spend with their families. Who often bears the brunt of that? Is it the women or the men? So I think, there's a wide range of things to consider at the institutional level, at the personal level, and at the departmental level as well.
Thank you. Something you noted reminds me too of some of the spaces where it tends to be more so connected to industry, but sometimes where the work happens away from work, and the tendency for there to be differences in who's invited or who's a part of those spaces. I think, I don't know how true it is versus being just kind of an association, like the golf course or, sporting events, things like that. We are winding down for time, but I wanted to also see or ask a question about whether or not, and the context for this question is more so limited to domestic, because I'm not aware of, whether or not institution types is as relevant in other global countries. But I think a lot about, I graduated from an HBCU. I was an engineering major at A&T. And so it was interesting to see how many industry entities wanted to partner and also wanted to leverage the fact that there was a larger likelihood that they would find women of color candidates for whether it was for their internships or for, even for some of the work that they did ongoing in partnership with the institution. Had you seen anything that gave an indication of differences in how these partnerships play out in a gendered way at different institution types?
Yeah, definitely. So, so you did note at the top of your question that the institutions, or at least across within and outside of the US, there might be different observable effects. We did see only a handful of studies conducted here in the US. It was noted that these partnerships tend to happen more often in the US versus abroad, notwithstanding certain countries abroad that are more polytechnic type of centers that house innovation or innovative projects. Notwithstanding those, but yes, as I presented in one of my slides, at least one study mentioned that senior faculty tend to do, or at least facilitate, industry engagement largely for their male mentees or male students. And yet, what's unclear at this point, and what future work can probably investigate, is what this looks like at an HBCU engineering department that is engaged in industry collaboration. Is that the same, or is that observation the case even in those institutions, or is it not? And I think this is one of the intersectionality gaps that I wanted to actually identify in this study. And I think you raised an important opportunity for us to continue this work moving forward at a more intersectional lens, or or with more intersectional questions in general in mind.
Thank you. That I was curious, of where, had there been extensive, piles and piles of studies that you could access, what would be sort of the question that you would really want to dive into, which I think overall is part of the reason why this work is so important, because when value is assigned to certain questions, then we begin to build, I think, we build energy around it, and we begin to catalyze just more effort being done to better understand the problem.
Definitely. Yes, agreed.
Well, as we are winding down for time, I just want to thank you so much for this incredible work. And really want to thank our attendees for joining us. I wanted to also remind folks that we will be hearing from Dr. Dawn Culpepper on February 23rd, 2023. Please keep an eye out for registration for her webinar presenting her work looking at advocates, allies, and bystander intervention trainings. Also, if you don't mind, please, your feedback is so incredibly important to us. We are dropping the link to our feedback survey in the chat. So thank you so much, Dr. Hendricks-Stirrup, for this incredible work and for sharing it with us today. And thank you to all of our attendees for joining us for today's webinar. Have a great rest of the week and rest of the year. Okay, I'm going to get our recording stopped. Okay, we have one message. Were you able to see that, Rochelle? Or would you like us to email it to you?
I see, please send QR code to, yes, this email address. Okay, got it.
Well, thank you so much. I hope that things go well. I hope you are able to get some rest.
Not yet, but but I'm working on that. Thank you so much for your patience. It's just, it's one thing after another, I guess, with, all the viruses going around and then the weather's changing. And so thank you for your patience.
No, thank you. And I was remiss, we were kind of rushed, but I don't know if you ever got to meet Ursula Sims, who is our executive director at WEPAN. And Ursula is also a biomedical engineer by training and an educator. So I don't know if Ursula saw herself in some of this data too, but I wanted to make sure to make that introduction.
Oh, yes, I would love that. I don't think I see Ursula here on the line, but I haven't.
I don't think we officially met, because I think when we did like at the beginning of their term, I was there again in the background, but I don't think we've officially met.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you look familiar, but I don't remember becoming formally introduced. So.
Yeah.
Well, nice.
Well, and also, yeah, Ursula is also a Duke alum, so y'all also have that bit of a connection too.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did
Awesome.
my undergrad and then came back for my did research and my postdoc there.
Oh, nice. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I just came on board at Duke about almost a year and a half ago.
Okay.
As their first research director of real world evidence. Before that, they hadn't had one, so they choose to fill. But a lot of the work that I do there is industry collaborative. I run an industry collaborative called Real World Evidence Collaborative. So we do a lot of we do a lot of work in with them, whether it's original research or just more engagement level projects. And so since
my research was industry, oddly enough, I did functional MRI. So we did some collaborations with GlaxoSmithKline, early discovery medicine, and then I did my postdoc in the K Lab, and we work with Nike.
Nice.
Wow.
Those are
And I'm, of course, I know you're extremely busy and we could definitely talk in the future about it, but I'm kind of wondering too, Ursula, if WEPAN, if our members would want to hear more about the work you do.
I think they would.
I think there would be a lot of interest in that. So we can, I know you're really busy. You have so much going on and it is a time of, it is a time right now. That's all I can say. But we could, I mean, if you're open to it, we could definitely talk about it in the future too.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love to. Yeah, I mean, if
Thank you.
time is, hard, but we always find time. We make the time for this stuff when we can. So I'm totally happy to disseminate this stuff. And I know I haven't submitted the actual full report just yet for the website, but I was really, hoping to get as much feedback as possible and thoughts and lived experiences. So that way I can make sure that the discussion in the paper can, say some resonating things for people like you who have worked in this and who see themselves in this work, because it is very new, I think. It's a new intersection to explore. And I even saw myself in some of those things. One thing that resonated with me the most was the motivation, the individual motivation factors. There were some reports that, gender, or some women, or at least in one study, women reported that, they don't pay too much attention to gender because doing so might have a negative effect on how they perceive themselves. And so they kind of just separate themselves from that in order to, uphold their status in the workplace and uphold their expertise in the workplace, which I thought is probably more of a coping mechanism for that. But again, it was only one study that reported that. It was a qualitative study, so the generalizability of that finding is very limited. So there could be more quantitative studies that could or supplement those findings in the future. And I'll touch on that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's always so hard when a researcher's work just hits right smack dab on, so much of what your experience is. So I was like, Stephanie, your questions are not about you. But thank you so much. And just know that we are thinking of you. We hope that things get settled really soon. And yeah, just let us know if you need anything.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thanks again for your patience today.
Thank you, Rochelle.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Ursula, was there anything that you needed from us while we're all here? Virginia, was there anything?
Not that I can think of, and I don't owe anybody anything because again, I keep feeling like I'm forgetting something, but I think it's just we finally are at a good pace. We're not going 100 miles an hour, and it just feels weird.
I think it's all the residual. It's like putting all that wind behind your sails, and then you're like, well, I'm here. Why does it still feel like?
Yeah, because I don't owe you anything, Liz, do I? I just feel like I owe somebody something. Okay, well, I guess we're good.
Oh gosh, I'm going to get my leave report done right now. And my
Yeah, y'all can send your leave reports in whenever. You don't have to wait till next week. If you
Oh yeah,
already
that's
know.
right, because they are due early. You know what? I'm gonna do mine now.
Yeah,
I gotta get it in before Christmas.
Right, because do we get paid early this time? I can't remember now.
I don't know. I feel like probably not, but I'll get
Okay.
confirmation from Francesca. And if we are gonna get paid early, I'll send out an email.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thanks, Liz, for helping with the reimbursement stuff. It looks like that one person is out of the office until the beginning of January. So I think they're going to be our last one that we're going to be dealing with.
Oh,
Yeah.
they sent something in and now they're not there.
It is a whole thing where they send in a W-9 for their college and not the personal W-9, and then they use two different accounts. And he's out of the office. His assistant is now going to be out of the office. So
wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I'm sorry that I
Man.
needed to let that laugh go. I need to go ahead and finish mine. I haven't even gotten my folio from the hotel, but I think I don't think I'm gonna worry about it.
Only one. Somebody
the only
else
one,
said Becky wrote me, one of the board members said they didn't get theirs. So I don't know what the hotel's doing.
Dawn also hasn't gotten hers yet either. So
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
yeah.
Well,
Liz,
y'all.
did
Oh, sorry.
we come up with any special designation for documenting emerging research workshop days that we're making up time? I can't remember what we said. Otherwise I'll just put ERW makeup day or something in there.
I was putting ERW flex, and I think there was a conversation about it because that's not something I would have come up with.
Okay, and that might be what it is. Yeah, because I can't remember. That sounds better than makeup day, but I knew something, but I can't. We haven't done April, so it's been a long time.
Yes.
Mhm.
Let's see. Right. And then Liz, I don't know if you saw it. I can't, because I can't tell what they copy you on and what they don't. Great of Colorado went up and there was some paper and I DocuSign that.
Oh yeah, they didn't send it to me.
Okay. I can't ever tell what, like, because then sometimes I'll ask and they're like, oh yeah, Liz was copied, but so I can't tell what things they copy you on and what things they don't.
Yeah, not that one. But I got the email about all the 1099s, and so I'm gonna wait for all the ERW people, and then January 1st I'll
Oh yeah, we
start
can
on
work on
that.
those. And then there's some, I'll look through them again just to make sure there's not a participant support mixed up in there, because every now and then things get coded wrong. So yes, unless you have that, like we can do like last year and pull it, and then Brooks, I think you can pull it now by the consultant codes, and I think those codes should allow it to only pull the appropriate things, but then I'm like worried we're going to miss somebody or something.
Yeah, I'll make sure I get everybody.
Okay. All righty. Okay, well, I didn't have anything else. So let's say everybody enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
All right, y'all take care.
Right.
Yeah,
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, Liz,
Yeah.
did you need anything? I think you can create the label for Cedric to send his computer back.
Yeah, I already did.
Okay, perfect.
It's getting
Okay.
picked up today, and
Okay.
it should be here this weekend.
Stephanie, you want to tell Liz what you found?
Why am I? Liz, I don't know if we were just super tired and super bored, but we became cyber investigators.
Well, you have to tell what you found, and then I can tell what I found on YouTube.
Yeah, I found that Cedric is registered with a speakers bureau as a celebrity public speaker, and his rate range is 10 to 20,000 per in-person speaking. And sorry, I can't stop laughing. The word cloud is
Speak about what? Like, has he ever done anything? That's
I found
insane.
a YouTube video of him speaking. I'm gonna forward it to you.
Is it bad?
It's terrible.
Oh my
What did you say?
god.
Like fast forward to like 31 minutes or something. And then there's like this article about him. The article about him, what was it saying? It basically saying nothing. Like it's from his university.
It's crazy.
And we found his wife and daughter on Facebook.
Oh wow.
But the funny thing though, Liz, is that of course the topics that he's an expert in are just kind of coincidentally connected to the topics his ex-wife's work is in and what her degrees are in. Just coincidentally.
Yes. Like I wondered if he had a girlfriend or something that he used to figure out how to get this job.
Yeah, probably. Honestly, yeah. You know, at that job that I worked at before I started here, the other one, not AWIS, we had a bookkeeper that they ended up having to fire because she just like was constantly awful. One time she didn't get payroll ran on time and we had to come in on the weekend to do it and like all this stuff. And then I ended up Googling her and I found like an acting reel.
Oh my God.
And she was all like dramatic, like thespian.
Wow.
Man,
What
it
in the
was so
actual?
funny.
Oh my God.
Wow.
It's the part-timers, I'm telling you, the part-timers.
I was, because I really believe he doesn't know how to change his LinkedIn, because he seemed to have a different LinkedIn for every job that he had. Like, he doesn't know how to just
You were like,
edit it.
why are all these Cedrics on LinkedIn?
That is so funny.
I
God.
feel like he's waiting to make it big. He's waiting to get that 100K
Yeah,
LinkedIn check.
that is
And then
so crazy.
he wrote this really random, it made no sense. It was just this really random thing about entrepreneurship and like hanging in there, and it
Webcam
was
video?
like, and he read,
Webcam webinar?
Webcam webinar. And then like all of a sudden out the blue, no backstory on how he would have possibly known this person, the CEO of Ford Motor Company just pops in this story out the blue, and it's talking about how great Cedric is and his mentality.
And see, how? I don't understand. Like, how?
That's insane.
I don't understand. Like, it doesn't even make any sense.
Golly, yeah, he's a freaking joker. Like, just his like little annoying smile sets me off.
And then
Don't
Thomasina's
tell Thomasina.
comment, when I sent her the video, like, I thought she was going to say something like, what in the hell? It was, oh, that's how I imagined his body looking when I saw his face. I'm like, what?
Ew, and Thomasina's pretty, like way too pretty for him.
And I'm like, ew.
Golly.
I know.
He's so like corny. Like
I
he's
was like, looking at his wife, like, what did you see in that? Like, I want to go find her and be like, what did you see in that?
So did we
Like,
wait, what was their age difference? It was like 10 years?
12. It's
12 years.
Age difference.
He's 12 years older than her.
gross.
And then it seems like she got him the UGA job. Ursula and Heather don't see what I don't know if Ursula has. Well, I won't say that because I don't know. But I was trying to do the math, and I'm like, wait a minute.
No,
He
I
got
think
his
did get
job
him
after
that job.
she started her master's and her PhD.
Man,
Yeah,
that is so weird.
it is very weird.
Ew. Yeah, he just like, I mean, everybody is somebody's type, but he is funky to me. Like, golly.
I don't. Well, see, I kind of wonder if which can happen, right? When for women who are really kind of like that academic type, if she wasn't used to getting attention or something like that, because you're a little more introverted, a little more to yourself. Probably were in grade school, kind of less social. Yep.
Oh my God, my cat just bit through my earphones. What the fuck?
Oh my God, is that what the static was? Because all of a sudden I heard static.
Golly, yes, it took like 2 bites, this little monster.
Because all of a sudden I heard like,
oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
I can't believe
what is wrong with this cat?
I cannot believe he just did that.
Literally 2 bites. Like, oh my God. Well, now I gotta get new earphones. God.
That was really light work. That's interesting.
Literally. And I've had these for so long. Like, golly. Annoying as Cedric right there. This is how it feels to work with him.
The cat was channeling his inner Cedric.
Literally ruins it. Golly.
Oh
Man.
gosh.
Yeah, I'll be so glad when he's completely gone.
Well, he is
He
close.
was so disappointed we didn't have that team meeting yesterday.
The look on his face was so sad. I was like, I said, Liz and Virginia already sent their note, so I don't have anything. I was so happy I didn't have to see him anymore.
Yeah, for sure. He sucks.
So terrible.
Okay. Ooh, my ears
God.
itching.
Well, we will figure out your dinner, your birthday dinner, when we're gonna do it.
Yeah, for sure. Whenever.
What is your actual birth date?
It was,
December 9th?
yeah, it was last week.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's
Wait a
fine.
minute. December 9th. Oh, that was Friday.
Yeah, it was when everyone was traveling.
Yeah.
Wait, so you're a Sagittarius?
Yeah.
Why did I never do?
I think
Okay.
because remember last year, you probably forgot. I think we
Oh,
talked about it last year at ERW.
Yeah, it was my birthday during the
Oh, we
ERW last year
did.
too. Or like
Oh
right
my
after.
gosh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm
I'ma
a
get it
Libra
together.
rising.
Oh,
That's my-
wow.
yeah, that's my favorite placement.
I'm a Sagittarius moon. Aiden is Sagittarius rising.
Ooh, Zach's a Sagittarius moon.
Oh. So me and my older brother are Sagittarius moons. You know what? Maybe that's why I could be quiet around certain people. Maybe it's because
Yeah.
those people are Sagittarius moons. They're like, yeah, I get you. We here.
Do you and your brother have a similar relationship with your mom? Because usually the moon sign has to do with like your mom. No.
My mom's a Virgo though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my mom's a Virgo, and I forget what my mom's moon is. So for the longest time, so this is my mom. She didn't realize how off her chart would be if she didn't give me all the correct information. And so my mom is very much like conspiracy theorist type person, and like, you know, she came up in that generation.
Mhm.
Can't put all your information out there. So a lot of her information was wrong because she was purposefully giving me the wrong,
Golly.
like what time she was born and all of that stuff. I
Oh,
was like, Ma,
Funny.
I didn't know. But
I can see my mom doing something like that.
yeah, it's just like I can't give away all my info. Where you putting
Baby
it in? I'm
boomers.
like, that's mm-hmm.
Yeah, my mom, any of her boomer tendencies really piss me off. Like she's so gossipy. I feel like that's a hallmark of boomers is they just
Yeah.
have to gossip.
Oh my God, my aunts. Because my mom will like tell me, like my aunts, I'm like, y'all are retired. Y'all not have anything better to do? Because my mom will call me. It's like one of my aunts is just to the point where I cannot take it. I'm like, don't tell me what you talked to her about because I don't want to hear it.
Right.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
it's funny because they won't really sit around and gossip, but my mom will, like, sometimes my mom will call me and she'll have her aunt, my aunt TC on the phone, my grandma on the phone, my cousin Skirty on the phone, another cousin on the phone. And there have been times they have been on the phone for 4 or 5 hours where it's like, hang up, I'm going to go get something to eat. And then they'll be like, well, what you going to eat? So then they got to talk about what they're going to eat.
Oh my
But it's
God.
like, it's like they are way less likely to gossip, but they will stay on that phone
Yes.
all day long.
I can't do that.
I can't either.
You're smart.
Yeah. I've left and come back to the phone call. I've been like, okay, Ma, I gotta go. And I've literally come back like 2 hours later, called my mom, like, Ma, what are you doing? Yeah, I'm still on the phone with them. Click you over. I'm like, no, click me over.
Now she doesn't, the older she's gotten, she stopped doing that, but it's just one of her sisters. And like my mom will just be listening and I'm like, Mom, just get off the phone. You don't want to hear this either, just get off. She feels bad telling her.
But you got to be able to see, I feel like they got to be able to fuss to get off the phone.
Yep.
One of my good friends, her mom was talking to me on Thanksgiving. Her mom blocks her sister. So she's like, my sister, I unblocked her because I needed to go get my pies because she can make some pies. And then I blocked her right back. You know?
Oh my God.
God, that's funny.
I do have some aunts. You have to like put their text on ignore because they'll send crazy text messages and
Oh
stuff.
God, yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Golly.
I got a cousin. She has shut down multiple email accounts. Remember when you used to have a data limit on your email
we're still
account?
recording. We're gonna have to cut this. We're still recording.
Oh, I hit stop. It must have